There's any number of different ways that regulations can affect a business operation. Really, I have been in these industries since the beginning, for the most part. Even EPA started in 1976 or 79, and I started in the business in 1984, really in the infancy of EPA. And over those years, I have seen the changes and the regulations just more and more and more every single year, it seems almost. And I'm not saying that regulations are bad. Hyperregulation is the extending of reasonable regulation. And reasonable regulation, yes, of course, we need to keep pollutants out of the water and out of the air and out of the ground, and we need to keep the chemicals securely managed at facilities. There's lots of ways that regulations help, but the regulations have just grown in scope, they've grown in magnitude, they've grown in volume, and they have really just taken a chunk out of the working capacity of a lot of companies.
Yeah, well, it makes sense that they're important. Obviously, there's certain things that have to be covered for the health and safety of everyone. But what else is going on with business that it's really hurting it? What is it taking out of a business where you feel like maybe they should be putting their attention elsewhere, but they have to tend to these particular issues?
Well, that's exactly the point that I deal with all the time, is that business owners, in particular small business owners, start a business to make money. Okay, they do not start their business to become an environmental health and safety expert. And that's what they wind up having to do. And it really diverts a lot of their energy, a lot of their time, and their resources, as in money, to these important aspects of a business. I mean, business are regulated entities. There's no question about it. They are going to be regulated, and the regulations actually are good for business. At least you could say a good portion of them. But the bottom line is that you can't continue with those regulations. They actually begin to suck the life out of some businesses. I mean, some industries have been regulated literally out of existence in America, and that's why they all went to Mexico and China. There's one company that called me after they had had a spill. They had a big spill. Well, it wasn't a big spill, but it was a very nasty chemical. And so the EPA was the first one in, and well, they hit them pretty hard. So then the next, within a couple of days, OSHA shows up. And within a few more days, DOT shows up. And the next thing you know, that the stormwater authority, there was another two, or the fire department also. I call it regulatory piling on. You're familiar with the term in football, when somebody gets tackled and 10 other guys jump on top just to make sure. Well, that's kind of what happened to this company. And it's actually not funny, because there was a 60-year-old company. They had been in business a long time, very well respected, and they wound up just closing the place. They literally couldn't handle all of the stuff that got thrown at them. Now, of course, they made the mistake. It was actually quite a simple mistake, and it didn't need to happen. It could have easily been prevented. And oh well, but these are the things that if you overlook some of the requirements, the basic requirements, the really straightforward, okay, let's prevent disaster kind of stuff. And if you can prevent that, you're going to be doing pretty good. But it's sad to see that kind of thing happen, and it was totally unnecessary. And I hate to see that, because small business in particular, and I'm not talking just little mom and pop shops. I mean, small businesses, anything less than what, $200 million a year or something. They are the backbone of American industry and the economy. I'll give you another example. Not too long ago, my car was in a parking lot and it got dented. I come out and there's a dent in a little tiny dent inside of my car. And so I wound up bringing it to a local auto body shop. And the gentleman comes in, I show him the dent, and we talked about it for a minute. He said, okay, great, I can take care of that right now. It was just a little dent. And so I was like, okay, great, how much? And so we agreed. And so we just started talking on the way back to his office. And he said, so what do you do? And I said, well, I help companies with their EPA, DOT, and OSHA regulation compliance. And he looked at me, and I will never forget this, because he was just a small shop, maybe half a dozen, 10 guys working there. And the first words out of his mouth were, the thing I fear the most is OSHA walking in that door. And that really struck me, because here you got a small company with all the concerns of keeping the doors open for any small company are significant, okay? And of all the things for this guy to be concerned about, he was concerned about OSHA. And I thought, dang, that's wrong. There's no way that they need to live in that state of fear with that nagging thing at the back of their head saying, oh gosh, tomorrow OSHA might walk in that door and I'm done. What? That's horrible. For people to be living under that kind of fear, I find, well, it's unnecessary. It's 100% unnecessary.